Hey, this is Ed with 5'Oclock Garage, and we are here at SEMA 2024. Been hanging out with Justin White from Justin White Tuned pretty much all week, and we've had a chance to sit down with a couple interesting people so far, and today is no exception. Today we're sitting down with Ashley Vaughn, who's a fabricator and overall cool car chick. Platforms are what, Instagram, YouTube?
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I do a little bit of everything.
Very good, very good. So yeah, I appreciate you coming and sitting down with us today. I know Justin had known you previously. I don't know the whole backstory there, but he introduced me to you, and I kind of checked out your page and some of your work. The one car that I checked out in particular was the rear-mounted turbos and the motorcycle mufflers.
Well, I want to first say thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Yeah, the BMW is it's been a crazy project. We originally started with 6 dirt bike mufflers. It was this kind of like harebrained idea in the shop, 4 o'clock in the morning, couple beers deep,
yes.
You know. We were joking about putting dirt bike mufflers on a car, and then we started budgeting it out, and we thought it would be just funny to do. We didn't think it would go viral in any kind of way, and it did well. So we ended up building 6 straight pipes from the front of the car. We cut the collectors off of the headers and built 6 straight pipes to the back of the car. And that did really well on TikTok. That was kind of my first viral video ever, and I was not expecting it at all.
Yeah, it sounds like a couple bottles of gas went into that whole deal.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And then unfortunately I had to move shops, and we were pulling it on a dovetail trailer, and it ended up crushing the exhaust. Because, so we built it out of really cheap metal. It wasn't like a total loss. It wasn't really well designed. We kind of just like slapped the thing together. It is on YouTube. There's sound clips of it on YouTube. I get asked that a lot. And then basically from there, we started once again making jokes about putting turbos on it. And it was a joke. Like, we were not really contemplating actually doing that. We were going to just put the stock exhaust back on and kind of, it was supposed to be a practice car. I bought the car for it to be a cheap $500 practice car to get seat time in. I told myself, I'm not going to touch this. I'm going to keep it stock.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, right.
Famous last words every time. So basically from there, I had a sponsor reach out to me, and they were like, hey, we saw you joking, and we'd like to offer you some turbos. And I was like, oh, that's a big undertaking that I was not expecting. Like, I have some turbos, but everything around that, all the supporting modifications, I kind of had to come up with. So it's been a process. A lot of people I get a lot of hate for not having it done in a timely fashion, as fast as people want, but the car will be running in the springtime. So that's my main goal right now.
That's a lot of things that a lot of people that I've noticed on TikTok is the instant satisfaction that everybody's looking for.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I want to build this car that's going to make 2,000 horsepower. Like, you got 3 weeks, and I want to see a video.
The TV shows, like, it's not that there's anything wrong with TV shows, but I feel like the TV shows, you have a whole team of people that come in behind the scenes, and they get a car, even in a week, even just doing one a week.
That still isn't how that really works.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the overhaul and stuff. That was never actually done that fast.
No, there's no way. I did have a friend that's been on a TV show, my friend Dawn. It was a struggle for them to get a project done a week. If you haven't seen Resurrected Rides, you should go check it out. Yeah. Yeah, on Netflix. Yeah. They struggled to get things done in a week. It was a lot.
Well, and then you got to think the parts. It's not like it's super easy to get parts anymore either.
No, yeah.
So that'll definitely get you.
There's always something you forgot or something you run into you didn't foresee.
Yep, 100%.
I love the projects that turn into something else. I love the projects that are just like exactly what you talked about.
It's just been a slippery slope. It just progressed in a different direction that I kind of was expecting, but I'm kind of just going with the flow and seeing where things go.
Yeah. And typically with projects like that, there's stuff that you really like as the builder, and other stuff that, I want to redo this or whatever else. So
always. Like the 2 center pipes that come down, there's the 6 pipes that all come down together. The 2 in the middle, my OCD is like, they're fine. Like, the average person won't really look at them, but to me, I'm like, I could do better. I could tweak that,
And you probably see it every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that completely.
Yeah, so I'm sure eventually I'll rebuild those, but for now they're fine. I have a lot more welding to do, so.
Let's shift back into kind of what sparked her to kind of get into this, where she comes from, and kind of like, what's the story? What made you want to do this to begin with?
Like automotive and
like automotive, any of this?
So that's a long story, but I'll keep it short.
Sure.
So my dad's not a mechanic. I don't have an uncle. Like, no one in my family really was into cars. My dad knows cars. Like, he's a Porsche guy, but he's not a mechanic. He doesn't work on anything. He's not tool handy. Like, I actually worry when he picks up power tools. I have to like supervise him.
Yeah.
I get nervous.
Understood.
But he's good at other things, just not power tools.
Right.
So, anyways, when I was really, really little, I just loved cars. Like, there was this innate attraction to just cars. Like, I would always fight my brother for his RC and Hot Wheels and stuff like that. And then as I got a little bit older, my neighbor was giving away, like, they had their red race car bed out on out by the dumpster.
Yeah.
You know, and I sat and begged my parents, and my mom was like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. But my dad brought it home, and he had an old air-cooled Porsche 911.
Nice.
He had to sell it when my brother was born, financial reasons. I'm like dying to buy that car back for him. But he used to let me sit in his lap and like steer it around the parking lot. And then I had colic when I was a kid, so the only way that I could fall asleep was if my parents drove me around. So my dad would actually like bottle feed me and go and shift the car because it was a manual, and then catch my bottle before I dropped it. And that's kind of, so I think that probably had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But it was just this like a natural. My mom tried to get me into like Barbies and girl stuff, and it never really
work.
Stuck. Yeah.
So do you have the VIN for that Porsche? Could you track it down?
So, yeah, I'm hoping it's still tracked in the RMV. I think if I take his information and I go into the RMV, they have all your past vehicles. So I haven't gotten it yet. I have a relative idea of like who he sold it to. I don't know if the guy has sold it since.
Right.
But it's funny, he'll have like a patient or something come in, and we'll bring up the guy's name. He'll be like, "Oh, so and so told me to say hi." I forget the guy's name.
Right.
So I kind of know where the car is, but I'm hoping I'll eventually find it.
And unfortunately, air-cooled Porsches are like a mint now.
Yeah. I know. They've gone way up in price. He probably sold that for a steal, I would assume. But it was like, he did so much work to that thing. It obviously had issues and was constantly in the shop getting work.
Turbo failures.
Well, if it was a turbo,
Was it turbo?
No.
No, not
That's
turbo.
a big money car.
Right. No, I wish
Shifter
it was a
linkage.
turbo.
Yeah, there's all kinds of
I used to work for a guy with his, and man, we went through turbos at least once a year.
Really?
At least.
That's
Wow.
a six-figure car all day.
Yeah.
Anything turbo Porsche?
Yeah. All day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always in the shop. But he did a little while before he sold it, he got it. It was originally white, and so he painted it black. He got it with a roll cage already installed.
Nice.
And it was like black leather wrap. So it was like black on black, black interior. It was really nice. Black's his color. It's a good color for him. But
So what kind of brought you from that?
from that, kind of like into where
What
I
brought
am
you
now.
into the world of financial instability?
Yeah.
Where did it all go wrong?
Yeah. When did
Let me think. I guess from there, I just had like a passion as a kid. So then at 17, I got kicked out through a series of unfortunate events. I very quickly had to kind of think on my feet. I all of a sudden needed to pay rent and car bills and purchase a vehicle. I was not set up at all. Phone bill, the whole 9 yards, and I was trying to afford everything, and we were just barely scraping by. I had a house that I split with a couple other people, and I was working 3 jobs, and basically I couldn't afford to fix my car. So it turned into one night my radiator blew out on a Mark III Jetta that I had.
Oh yeah, that one.
Total shit box.
Right,
The linkage was so sloppy. I was like the only person that could get into the first. It would just want to go into third. The linkage was terrible, but good beater car. We had a lot of fun in that
cool car.
Yeah, it is a cool car.
Yeah.
I want to have another one someday, but one night the radiator let go. As I was leaving my nannying job, I saw a huge puddle underneath the car, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll add some water and drive home, and hopefully it kind of holds something in it and I don't overheat it. I did make it back, and we just went to town trying to figure out how to, I just had to figure stuff out. There was no YouTube. There was like some forums and, you know, a little bit of Google, but basically it was like take stuff apart and figure out, hopefully you don't have extra bolts at the end, and so.
It's like one of those things where you take apart 40% more stuff than you needed to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, learning the hard way. It's fun.
The second Jetta radiator is always the easiest, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah. So number one on that Jetta, I can hear the noise when you leave the key in the ignition.
Yeah.
Right?
I smelled the crayon.
Yep. It smells
When
like
she
a
mentioned the name, I was like, it smells like Crayola over
Those
here.
two things. And then it was only the Golf that had the golf ball shifter, right?
I think so,
The Jetta didn't have that?
No.
Like the
I
dimpled
don't
shifter?
think so, no.
Was that an OE thing? Or was I just in like some funny Golf?
Actually, I'm going to be honest, I don't know VWs that well.
Yeah.
You
I
probably
don't
know
either.
better than I do.
Right, no.
My friend had a Golf. He had like a Mark IV Golf.
Yeah. Cool car.
Yeah.
A friend of mine had a Mark IV Golf as well. So in Detroit, growing up in Detroit, there were just American cars, really.
Really?
If somebody had any kind of foreign car, it was odd. So when, like said guy had a GTI, it was a GTI. And it was a cool car, you know. We beat the dog shit out of it.
My first car was actually my RX-7. So I got kicked out, made a horrible financial decision. Horrible. I went very, very bad.
FD?
It's an FC.
FC.
Yeah,
what
but
year?
An 86. Yeah, so.
I had an 87 and a 91 Turbo 2.
Oh, no way. Yeah,
FC's
mine's
my
not a
favorite.
turbo.
I don't like my cars spontaneously combusting, so I never bought an FD.
Well, they're all kind of bad, because like when I bought that one, I think the guy knew that the motor was letting go. I didn't find out about this till years later, but he put bars leak through the motor.
Nice.
Yeah, it doesn't work on those.
Apex leak?
It gunked up the entire motor. You should see when I took it apart. You'll see it on YouTube. There's just like blobs all in the coolant jackets. It's terrible.
So I used to spend a lot of time on no rotors. I LS swapped an FD, and I learned
So you're like the Antichrist.
Yeah,
like,
I learned how to
everyone probably hates you.
yeah, and I didn't care, honestly. I kind of inherited a friend who had an LS swapped FD, and I just had to go back and fix things and then upgrade things. So I got sucked into that world, and I didn't really care. But I found out how butthurt people would get about.
Oh, it's so bad.
Right.
I don't really have anything against it.
Right.
Like, I hear they drive great when they're LS swaps. I've never driven one.
I've had
but
7 RX-7s.
It was dangerous, really.
The first motor I ever built was a rotary, from using the Atkins rotary guide.
Oh, no
when
way.
I was 12 years old.
Holy cow.
So it ran. I don't know how long, but it ran.
I don't know how long,
But
it ran.
by my 6th one, it had a small block in it with a carburetor.
Gross.
Then I realized I don't know how carburetors work. So I bought another one from O'Reilly's, and I'm like, oh, this is trash. So then I got an LS one, and I love that car.
Well, it's an LS, so.
But the rotary has that.
I just love rotaries.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. They have a soft spot in my heart just from.
Have you ever driven a proper rotary car?
Actually, the only rotary car I ever drove was an RX-8, so it was NA.
No, don't.
I
Stop
know.
it. Stop it. That's a Renaissance motor. That's poo. That is not a rotary.
But I can tell you, like, so when LS things were cool, that was back then. It was cool, but now, if I were to buy an FD, I would want a rotary in it for sure. It's cooler. It's just better.
So you still have that car?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So it has been a very painstaking build. That's probably the biggest source of pain for me is that build, but it's a total passion project for me. I'm not going to ever give up on it. So yeah, I'm building currently a 3-rotor for it. I have a 20B in the works. It's with Mike Vargas right now. He's taking good care of me. So I'm hoping to have that running in the next year, but I need to get the BMW and the Corvette done first. So.
Wait, Corvette?
Yes.
What Corvette?
I have a C7 Z06.
Oh, that's right. You do have a C7
Yeah.
Z06.
Yes.
We were just talking
That's
about
how
camshafts.
we actually met.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
That's where I come in.
That's
Yeah,
where he comes
very
in.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're into plastic Chevrolets, this is your guy. Indeed.
Well,
It is what it is. They work fine.
they work fine.
Yeah.
But what made you buy that?
So
And I know, I was gonna leave it stock. That's not gonna happen. Go ahead.
actually, it did.
It's not gonna.
Well, not anymore. I bought it with the intention to not touch it for a
Right.
year, and I did accomplish that.
A
So,
year?
a year.
Wow.
Well, it's been
How?
actually 2. It's
We were
actually been
busy
2.
with a 3-rotor.
Oh,
yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, all
That's
my
why.
other stuff. I've
Yeah,
been busy
okay.
welding on the BMW.
Right, and
but,
that, yeah.
So, yeah, I basically I was looking. So, all my cars were apart, and I was driving a pick-em-up truck, and
Slow death.
I used
slow-
to say that.
Yes,
Yep.
I was slowly
I've never
dying
heard
on
anybody
the
else say that.
inside.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm getting depressed not driving a stick. I know that sounds so
No,
stupid,
I
but
get
I was
it.
like, I'm just gonna start looking at stuff. And yeah, I wanted something I wasn't gonna touch. It had a high horsepower number right out of the box that I'd be happy with and I could kind of grow into a little bit. And they're just great out of the box. I mean, you have a rear diff cooler, you have an LSD, you have a dry sump system. So-
ELSD.
Yes. So if I were to try and upfit a vehicle with all of that, it
Right.
would get really pricey really quickly, where I'm kind of paying a little up front for what it has, but I think it's a great price. I mean,
It absolutely is. You know, the other thing that I really like about the 7-speed manual in that car is, have you ever tried the no lift shift strategy in that?
yes.
That's like my favorite thing in the world.
Yes. It's a great system.
Yeah.
Like the car, I'm so happy with how the car drives just in general. I was very surprised. It is a bit twitchy. Like you'll see people on like Car and Driver or certain reviews that say it does get twitchy. It took me a little while to like kind of get used to driving.
Throttle
it.
twitchy or suspension?
No, steering.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
steering's
Yep.
very twitchy. So that took, when I first picked, because I bought the car sight unseen. I was
Right.
yeah. So I found the
That's
car.
the worst way.
Yeah, it was a little. I have a little bit of regrets there, but
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
too bad.
Right.
Nothing I can't fix so
Right.
far that I've found. But basically, I saw it was a white with tan interior, and I like hadn't seen another one come up for sale that was white with tan,
No.
and kind of fell in love. And the car was in Florida, so
Which is close to where you're from.
100%. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very close to Boston.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're at least on the same coast.
yeah, it is on the same coast. But so basically I flew down there and then drove
Drove
the
back?
car home. Yeah.
Awesome. And on that note, I think I've only worked on 2 C7s.
Really?
With beige, with the tan interior.
I was just sitting there thinking, I don't know of any
I
white
own-
with
I
tan.
own
All the
one.
white ones I see are black or red.
Yep. Yeah.
I owned one with the gray interior. It was horrible.
So
Oh,
I
you haven't seen the
actually
blues.
looked.
Bad.
I almost bought one with a gray interior. So it was all gray though. Like it was
no.
a dealer demo car.
Mine had black carpet.
Oh
And
no,
gr-
this
oh,
was gray.
it was bad.
It was all light gray, everything.
Wow.
But it had it was ceramic gray on the outside, which I
Right.
really
That's a
liked
cool
that.
color.
Yeah, I
That's
really
the
liked
best
that
color,
color.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically, my C7 had gray interior and it was wrapped in that color. but
Oh,
it was-
really?
Yeah, it was white underneath.
It's a beautiful color.
It is.
Like I'm like, "Ugh, maybe I should have. I'll see one out in public and I'm like, but I'm really happy with the tan. That was like I think the only one at the time I could find on like all the sites I was looking on.
The manual's hard to find.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done a few, but obviously the automatic is way more.
I had to have a manual.
It's faster.
Yeah. And then, like, as far as the steering goes, it's true. The automatic's is easier to make faster. But as far as the steering goes, that's the one thing that I don't like about the C7 is the electric steering. I have a C6, and there are a lot of things that I like better about the C7. The steering's one that I just love the feel of.
But the one good thing about the C7 steering is if you're trying to sneak home, you can kill the car, and
Yep.
until you stop, the steering still works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got to do things
If
like
you have
that.
to.
Yeah,
Right.
you have
Neighbors,
to do things
you know
like
what I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Well, let's
You would know more about that.
to
I'm on
shift
stock right now.
to shift back on topic.
Yeah.
So you do fabrication welding, which is
Yes.
obviously not a typical female thing. I mean, I've tried it. I still suck at it.
Yeah, same.
Same.
I can fake it, but
But what made you decide that, you know what I want to do? I want to glue metal together.
I guess what really kicked it off is my high school middle school did a tech tour of like the tech school in town. And that was like my first exposure to welding, was walking through and seeing people welding. And I was like, what is this? Like, I thought it was so cool just right off the bat. And my parents were super against me going to tech school. They wanted me to go to college. I totally get it. They tried, but you know, I was pulling a 4.0. I do great in school. It just wasn't really my thing. And I don't know. Then I just had this passion for it. And the biggest thing was I didn't have the tools. To kind of get started welding, it takes a lot of decent amount of money. You can buy like a cheap MIG welder for a decent price, but when you get into the TIG world, I never had the tools.
That's where I limit. I got this sick Lincoln little stick thing. I can puddle some birds together.
If you need metal bird shit, I'm your guy.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
100%.
Volcano welding?
Yeah, stalagmites, yes. Yes, indeed.
But
well, we all start there, and if you don't have clean metal, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it.
But most people, we start there, like bought a TIG welder, and we stop there. So what got you... was it the welding school that kind of helped you get better?
No, I have literally no formal training. I'm pretty much all self-taught off of YouTube. So there's no excuses for
certified YouTube mechanic.
Literally.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there's no such thing as a setback in my mind when it comes to figuring stuff out. It's hard. You mess up a lot, but it's doable. Yeah. It is 100% doable. If you're passionate and you want to learn something, you can go out there and learn it.
Yeah, so like I'm seeing a theme here, and I operate the same way, and I'm grateful that I do, and I know you do as well. It's like determination.
Yes.
Like if there's something that you want, you've just got to stick with it, and it's going to suck, and you're going to screw stuff up. And I know that anybody who's not succeeding at something, it's just because you're not obsessed about it enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just,
Well, in a day and age, everything right now is about instant gratification.
Yeah.
And welding especially is not one of those things that's an instant gratification. You have to do hours of prep work, and then you get to do the fun part, which is an hour of welding after all the prep.
Just like painting a car.
Yep.
Exactly. You can spray that gun as good as you want, but if you didn't prep that car properly, it's never going to look as good.
Yep. And to redo stuff is you're resanding, like the amount of added work that you have,
the way I look at it is if I weld it and I grind it properly, that weld's going to be seamless.
We need a grinder that puts dimes in that thing.
That's
I
what
know,
I'm saying.
right? Just automatically, that would be perfect. Just take like a little die grinder.
I think Elon Musk was talking about this one time, about basically how, and this is his statement, not mine, but he was like, college is a waste of time. You don't need to do it. There's so much information at our fingertips.
That was the biggest thing, is I was fronting a lot of the money to go to school.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I got a lot of good knowledge from my college classes.
Right.
I don't regret spending the money or anything like that. The long term of it, it just didn't fit with where I saw myself going and kind of where my dreams and passions were.
You know what I mean? In that vein, I think if you're the type of person that's determined and obsessed about things and driven,
yes,
I think that it's at least something that, like you did, you should explore. However, if you don't know what you want to do and you don't have any particular skills and you've never really been a hustler, college it's a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good
my
thing.
sisters are all in college.
Yeah.
I am not anti-college by any
same.
means. It just wasn't a good fit for me and where I was going with things.
The big thing, like we talked about, I went to UTI, and I always get a lot of people that are like, oh, UTI is they don't like it. And I went there without knowing how to work on cars at all. Well, I mean, I rebuilt the rotary, but like simple stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, you get out what you put in.
Yep, I was just about to say that. So I worked at a Mazda dealership for a while, and we hired a lot of people fresh out of UTI or in UTI. And the program really, it's what you make it. It's what you make of it. And
I went there knowing, hey, I lived in my car before this. I probably don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So I better make this as best I can.
Yep.
And honestly, the funny part is the only B I got was in Super Street and Performance.
That's a little ironic.
The B+ now. Anyhow.
Right?
Yeah,
Right?
B+ now. I think you've gone up a couple grade points from there.
But it kind of just shows, because a lot of people say it's not a good school, but it is. But a lot of the kids that seem to go there they're
think
going there
people are
because
just-
their parents are forcing them.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to be motivated when you're like, you got to know the opportunity in front of you at a young, you're still young. Like, I hate to say it, but they're young and.
I mean, we're not, but you might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm getting
Sorry.
old too. My knees hate me, so
Yeah.
I'm all the action sports and snowboarding and dirt bikes. Yeah,
And it's not like we're sponsored by UTI. It's not like that's the only answer. It's almost as if action, right? I mean, like if you're taking action, whatever
Yes.
that might be.
Yeah, I mean, I
whatever
don't think it
school
matters
No.
what school. It's
Right.
if
I
you're
honestly-
determined you're going to put it in there.
Yeah, I think it's great for people the people I saw that were most successful with the UTI program were doing something outside of there, whether it was working on their own stuff at night or getting hands-on experience, like going and working for a shop either before you start school, during, or after. You can read a textbook and get some hands-on experience through school, but being in the field, I think, is just, you can't replace that.
Did you ever work in the field as a mechanic or just doing your
No,
own stuff?
I didn't. Yeah, so I've always kind of worked on my own stuff. I did sell car parts for I think 4 or 5 years. I worked at Mercedes and Lexus for a while, along with Mazda. That was actually how I got my foot in the door, automotive, job-wise, was I was buying parts for my RX-7. I was doing a tune-up.
That's a normal
Lots
thing.
of parts.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was learning about the car, and I had just found out what leading and trailing spark plugs were, and I walked in and said, "Hey," I'd ordered spark plugs and went to go pick them up, and I was like, "Hey, which of these are leading and trailing?" And the guy at the parts counter didn't even know.
Yeah, right. I don't
were,
know.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were impressed.
They all spark.
They all
Yeah.
spark. It'll be fine. But at the time, I was just trying to learn and make sure I was fixing the car properly, and they were really impressed with how quickly I was learning things. And the guy just off the cuff offered me a job. He's like, "Are you looking to work?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I'm between stuff right now." And that got me a foot in the door, and that's where I really started to progress mechanic-wise, because the parts department was down in the basement where all the techs are, basically attached to the shop,
Right.
which they normally are, but basically they would just come, all the techs were really cool. It basically was just a really good learning environment for me. And they would pull me out in the shop and be like, "Hey, we have this Subaru motor apart, on a used car, come check it out. Have you seen something pulled down to this level?" And they'd show me everything, and I'm a very visual learner.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of how I really started to grow.
If they worked on Subarus, you saw that a lot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Another job field that
we did a lot of head gasket
deletes.
deletes.
Right.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
JB Weld and
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. Back to the rotary thing real quick, now that you brought it back up, the nice thing about the actual Dorito part is that if you own a boat, you can just loop a rope through that spot and tie it up, throw it overboard, and it does a really good job of
Oh,
holding the
that's
boat
so nice.
in place.
I have some parts I can give you for that.
That was one that went over really well on no rotors. Yeah.
The rotary is a really good engine.
I'm
it
just
really
kidding.
is. There's
Yeah.
just
3 power strokes per revolution. I mean, it's
It's super cool. It's
I just-
mechanically intriguing.
it's super
they get a bad
inefficient.
rap. They
Super
get-
inefficient,
oh,
which is what we're
horrible.
looking for.
right.
If you're looking to get good fuel economy, don't buy a rotary.
The only thing,
Or good oil economy.
if you've ever
Yeah, yep.
if you ever come to Puerto Rico and you go to a rotary drag race, if you don't have good hearing protection, you
Yeah.
are
Oh,
screwed.
forget it. Have you guys checked out the burnout stuff here yet?
Yeah.
Bring your ear protection.
Yep, we were there earlier today. And
Yeah. I was out there filming all day yesterday. I'm excited. I started editing the content last night,
Yeah.
and we got some really good shots. I'm
Good.
excited.
Very good.
What transition back?
Yeah.
What do you do outside of the social media stuff? Aren't you more, male dominated areas?
Yes. So a lot of my followers are male. It's male dominated. The field's just
Right.
dominated in general. Outside of content creation, automotive, my day job is in construction, so I'm a superintendent on construction sites. I work for big GCs.
So you're
and-
totally
So
just
lots
trying
of
to
lots
stick
of
it to the
women.
man.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, that's what I'm
I-
gathering here.
No, I actually try to do the opposite. I try to it's so funny. I'll go on a job site, especially on a construction site, and usually when I walk on site, everyone clams up. They're afraid to talk to me.
Yeah.
I start getting apologized to them swearing in front of me.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, have you heard me open
Yeah.
my fucking mouth?
Yeah, right.
Do you work
know-
in Canada?
No, I
No.
don't.
Okay.
No, but I have a friend that does.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
But yeah, it basically, automotive wasn't paying me as much as I
Sure.
wanted to. I thought about going into a tech position, but I just didn't think I was going to make good money as quickly as I needed to there. And the schematic stuff, looking at parts diagrams and schematics of cars all
Right.
day, translated very well over to blueprints.
Yep.
So it kind of, I actually did go to school. I went to college for a couple semesters for construction management.
Good.
Then I ended up getting in a really bad car accident, actually. I was fine. I just didn't realize my car spun. I got T-boned in an intersection. The guy had a red light, blew through 4 lanes of traffic. I couldn't stop in time, and it ended up hitting the front clip of my car and like spinning me 3 times. I didn't realize I got a concussion from that. I thought you had to hit your head, or I didn't black out.
Right.
But about a month later, I was taking calculus at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I ended up getting these really bad ocular migraines where I'd lose my vision, and I had to go to the doctors, get checked out, and they're like, you actually have a pretty severe concussion.
Jeez.
So it was at that point my calculus and my physics teachers had a pretty frank discussion with me, and were like, I think you need to take some time off. Like, I don't think stressing your brain right now is good for it, and you should probably take some time off. So what am I going to do with time off? You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, I'll get my foot in the door working. I'll just go out in the field, and that's exactly what I did. I got my foot in the door at a company. It was like a high-rise residential, like big apartment complexes.
Yeah.
First job site I was on was like 5 acres, 3 apartment buildings surrounding a 7-story parking garage, and big, massive job. And very nerve-wracking, stepping on a job site for the first time, being a female.
Yep.
You know, it's very overwhelming. You got to be very, it's dangerous. Construction's dangerous. Automotive is too, but construction, there's big equipment around you. We were digging so many footings at the time that there was big, massive pits all over. You had these narrow little pathways, you know, raised up that you could, you know, walk down, and you just had to be very aware. So
to that point, and I'm not gonna try to make a direct comparison, but
Yeah.
like, so I got into dealership management when I was like 30,
really,
and so like as a very small, you know, as a very small example of probably what you went through, it was like I was managing guys that were 40 and 50.
it's hard.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you've got to like research everything you're going to say. You've got to make sure that if you make a point about anything, it has to be thoroughly thought out. It makes you very thorough, if I'm not mistaken. Again,
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to know your shit.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but being a female,
oh yeah, I can't even
feel
imagine
like,
adding that.
yeah,
Ooh.
you really, but you know what? At the same time, I know I don't know everything. I feel like some females often
Yeah.
overcompensate and kind of act like they know more than they should. I don't mean that directed towards anybody. I just, from my experience working with some females in the field, they'll say they know stuff and they don't, and then it actually makes things kind of dangerous. I'm not afraid to say, frankly, I don't know.
Men do that too, and honestly, Justin and I have talked. A lot of what we've talked about is that
It hurts your ego a little. You got to be okay with, you know.
you got to be okay.
You got to
with
be
what- yeah.
you got to be secure enough to know
Yeah.
when, you know, hey man, I just can't do this. I
Sometimes
don't know.
you got to fake it a
Help
little
me
bit
out.
till you make it,
Sure,
but
Yeah, but don't fake it when it has somebody's life on the line.
Yeah, and construction's very much that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't want to make like a direct simile to that, but it's one of those things that as soon as you started talking, you know, I can't imagine adding, because if I would have been female on top of all of that, it would have for sure been more difficult.
I mean, you
Yeah,
kinda
I
are.
get a lot of hate on the internet, but that's okay. It helps me out at the end of the
What?
day.
I was
Just
gonna
because I
say
sit down to pee, man, you know.
He drank out of Elvis's bidet.
I thought it was a drinking
Oh.
fountain.
Weird. He's a strange fella.
We all are.
But I've noticed a lot of times, you know, you'll get that hate online, but
Oh, no one will say it to your face.
sometimes that will breed more followers and
Oh.
more people.
There's no such thing as bad press, unless you really screw up.
Right.
You gotta
Yeah.
really screw up.
But as long as you have good morals and good wits about you, that shouldn't be an issue.
Absolutely. Like I took so it's kind of maybe a stupid idea on my part, but I was welding the BMW exhaust, and at the time I was tack welding all the pie cuts together. I was test fitting. So it's a 95-degree day in the shop. I'm constantly taking pie cuts, tacking them. Oh, this doesn't fit right. I have to cut it apart, twist it a little bit, trying to nail all the placement. And basically, I was just in and out of the trunk. I ended up taking my hoodie off and was welding, and I was like, oh, these are kind of cute pictures. I took some screenshots of the video, posted them up. Frankly, my tits were out in the photo. And no, I didn't have filler wire because I'm fusion tacking, which most people don't understand that, I guess. And so yeah, I posted the picture, which may have been I don't know if it's a good idea or not on my part. I mean, I netted a lot of followers from it, so.
Justin posts his boobs all the time.
Oh, I bet you do.
I would. If I was a female,
All of my guy friends
I'd
say
be in
that.
trouble.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
yeah,
All
we're not going to
my
go all
guy
the way into
friends.
that.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. Like, that's seriously funny. I just.
But how well
get-
did it do?
Yeah,
It
you
did
good?
really well.
Yeah.
So eventually what
Win-win.
happened is I posted it. It did well just naturally, but then there were like 3 to 5 people that posted it on this big Facebook page called I See You Don't Know Shit About Welding.
Awesome.
That's a Facebook page.
It's a Facebook page.
Probably full of a bunch of people that just have nothing
Oh,
going on in life.
absolutely. So
Nothing.
I all of a sudden started having all these hate comments float in, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And eventually I figured out, so people started messaging me saying, hey, I saw your picture on this page. And I was like, oh.
Ooh.
But I netted, I think, at least like 10,000 followers in like a week.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you gotta, it's like you want to read the comments, you want to read the stuff to see, kind of like even on the other podcast, I'll read through the comments, but then like, if
I
5 people say the same thing, I'm like, okay, maybe there's a valid thing, maybe I should adjust. But
I hate to say it, but even then, like people compare me to Sid the Sloth. They say I look like Sid the Sloth, and I'll get that comment like 10, 15 times over, and I'm like, everything I feel like you gotta take, I get where you're going.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you, but I feel like everything you just gotta take with such a huge grain of salt. It's really hard to, unless somebody's like, it's more of my followers that have followed me for a long time, know my stuff, and if they're giving me certain feedback, I will take that much more seriously than
right.
someone leaving a comment 5 different times over and over, to be honest, because I've gone wrong directions doing that as well.
So I've done influencer builds with, in particular, a female in the automotive field on social media, and she doesn't read anything.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
just,
good way to go. It honestly is.
sometimes you see it or whatever. Sometimes some stuff slips through, but like I don't.
But
by
how do
and
you
large,
know? How do you know that you're still engaging with your followers?
You can tell by numbers.
Yeah, but
I didn't even think about that.
So actually,
You're right.
Meta, it's not great. As you get so many flooding in, the algorithm chooses what it prioritizes. I have a big issue with the comments as well as how they structure their DM systems. It's a big problem because
What do
I have
you
no
mean?
way to organize. I just miss people. I really try to respond to everybody to the best of my abilities, and like the best approach logistically to responding to all of my comments, I have to go into each post. I have to go into the post and I have to go through every single comment. And then if the thing goes viral a week later, I've already gone through it. So just, it's just not a great system. It doesn't, some stuff will come through, but a lot of stuff I miss.
How do you decide, I guess, what you're going to post, or how do you go about it? What is your process on that? Or you just kind of wing it and this is cool, I like this?
I do a little bit of both. Some stuff I just wing because I feel like it's much more natural and just keeps things like light and real. Other stuff, like the YouTube especially, there's a lot more planning that goes into it. I write scripts, I really try to map stuff out because it just increases the quality, I feel like. So that's a big focus of mine right now, is actually improving my YouTube content. I took a year off from YouTube just because short form content just exploded.
Yep.
And I'm a one-man band. I design my own website. I do all the merch designs. Literally everything I touch is, I record, I edit, everything's me. I'm a one-man band, and I just didn't have all the bandwidth to focus on both YouTube and staying consistent with that, and the short form content. The short form content was exploding, and I knew I needed to capitalize off of that.
So do you have any, I would hate to have anybody at your construction company see your answer to this, but do you have any aspirations of going, strictly for content creations in the future, or you think that?
That's actually what I'm doing right now. The struggle is real.
Yeah.
So I basically was watching, I watch a lot of like entrepreneurial stuff just for like what I like to consume on a personal level. And one of the, I forget who said this, but they basically said, when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to start a business and you're trying to grow stuff, you got to get rid of your plan B.
Right.
You got to get rid of your plan B. So at the time, I was making very consistent money, primarily from Facebook ads, and I replaced my day job income, which I was making good money.
That's cool.
I did end up, they don't pay as well now.
Right.
So things really shifted. So now I'm really trying to focus on growing the personal brand, the merchandise, working with good companies, and trying to build the business. Yeah. Not just relying on ad revenue. Relying solely on ad revenue for your income is just not a great idea.
And not, I guess, not trying to separate people by gender or anything else, but honestly, your experience is unique, to being a female in this world. If you had any advice or any insight to somebody that was thinking about not going to college or dropping out of college and pursuing, doesn't even mean it was automotive, pursuing another career, especially in a male-dominated field, do you have any kind of advice?
Yeah, I mean, just stay persistent. What's the expression?
That's awesome.
You don't lose until you quit. Something along those lines. Like it's very easy to get down and feel like you're failing. You're not failing. You fail when you stop trying. It was basically the advice I would give. Just don't. You're gonna get hate. You're gonna get, you're gonna be set back. There's gonna be things that you deal with, but don't let that discourage you. If you're really passionate about it and this is really what you want to do, whether it's construction or something male dominated or even just if you're passionate about something and you have a dream, like go after it would be my best advice.
Something you said earlier was, fake it till you make it. And, I'm self-employed. I started a few different companies, and there are still days, it's usually financial where I just don't want to do it today. You know? And typically by midday or the end of the day that changes. But to me, it's one of those things where you just got to push through, and that's exactly what you're saying.
You will always have days like that, and the what's going to set you apart, I feel like what sets a lot of successful people apart is pushing through those days. Because anyone else or a lot of people will just be like, yeah, I don't feel like it today, and I'm gonna go lay up on the couch or put my head between my legs, or the fact that you're put my head in the sand.
I could not do that. I could try, but I would not accomplish that.
He's not very flexible. Ask me how I know. We're sharing an Airbnb.
Oh,
you didn't come out last night, that's why.
I came out years ago. Oh, geez.
We may have to cut that.
We're going to have to cut that out.
Keep that in.
Keep that in.
That's what he said. I'm sorry.
So, the one thing I've kind of noticed, like, you get into a lot of the male-dominated stuff, not because you care about that or sticking it to the man, but more just because that's what you like.
This is just what I like. It's what I'm good at. It's what I naturally just kind of fits. Like it's part of it is I come from a family of artists that have never capitalized on their gifts. To be honest, they just did it as a hobby, and that's partially why like the welding came really natural for me.
Welding is definitely an art.
Yeah, it felt like painting to me, which sounds so weird.
It's right.
But and I was like hooked.
I mean,
I was
I'm painting
addicted
with
instantly.
a broken brush, but
Yeah. I can't even.
I'm over there with a stick painting.
Well, it helps to have the right tools,
Right.
but you got to start somewhere. So like, I mean, I use a MIG, my MIG welder is like a cheap Hobart from Tractor Supply.
Yep.
Like you can start with cheap tools
Yep.
and you can progress, but you're gonna hit setbacks, you're gonna deal with, not Hobart's a great company. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I love the welder. There's obviously more expensive, like even Hobart makes more expensive machines. So just don't be afraid to start somewhere.
Right.
I think the hardest part is sometimes starting. You gotta, get moving,
Right. Well,
pull the trigger.
Now that you're already here and you're established and you're super famous,
I'm not famous.
Celebrity.
Thank you though.
celebrity,
Yep.
No.
what's the future look like?
Oh geez. I mean, I could go.
We need your plan A, not your plan B.
That's right.
Well, I have like C, D, E, F. Which
Gotta throw that
plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, throwing all the other side plans. I have like really bad ADHD. I have like,
Yes.
I go on side quests a lot.
Yes.
If you can't tell by just the
I've started so many
conversation.
projects just this week that I'm never going to finish.
Yeah, so I'm really trying to, the past year, I've been really trying to cut back on that because one of the biggest feedbacks I've gotten from followers, fans, friends is, hey, your cars aren't done. Hey, they're still not done.
You'll always get that even if you finish
Oh,
them.
I know. No, that's fine. It's just more, I want to see them running and I want to get to the track. Like, my future plan is I want to get to the track. I want to go have some fun.
What kind of track? Road course, drag?
I want to do a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
which is a little crazy.
Not
but
really.
That C7 Z06 is the car to do it in.
Yep.
Yeah, it's another reason why I bought it. It's a very versatile
Very
car.
versatile.
So I could go drifting, I could go do road course, I can go do drag, and it's already pretty well set up to do all of those things.
Fun fact, he does drag.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Not in
Not
my car
racing.
though. Hey.
But so the future basically is kind of to go finish the cars, which
Yeah.
that'll never happen. They'll get
No.
running, but you'll never finish them.
Well, so I'll start short term. My short term, like 6-month plan, BMW Corvette are going to be done and they're going to be at the track. I'm going to be having fun in them this season, traveling, driving. I don't care what I'm even doing. I just want to go have fun.
Yep.
So that's like the next year. From there, I mean, I just want to keep building. I just want to keep meeting new people. I want to just have fun, really, is what it comes down
I think
to.
in our conversations, I think your approach to things is definitely different than a lot of other people.
Really?
Yes.
Thank
So
you. I
I
appreciate
deal with a lot
that.
of people that are like they're very harebrained and kind of on it, not in a bad way, but like they go so many different ways that they ultimately hurt themselves.
Yep. Yeah.
And the way that I've noticed you approach things is you're like, I want to do this, this, this. This is what I want to do. How do I get there? Okay, if this is how I need to get there, this is what I need to do. And then I'll hear from you a week later and you've already accomplished most of it. And I'm like, man, that's really cool
Hey,
because so many people
to-do
don't
lists
do
are a
that.
hell of a drug. Sticky
Yeah.
notes and to-do lists
Yeah.
it's where it's at. I also I think why that may be a thing. No one's ever said that to me, so I appreciate that.
Well,
That's
it's just
really-
something I noticed and it stands out because
Thank
you could
you.
tell that when you're saying, hey, in 6 months this is going to run, I 100% believe that.
Oh, thank you.
So-
I hope I don't fail now.
Yeah,
You better not.
I won't.
So-
I'm too determined, but
Yeah.
I think why that it may be different is because I treat the cars like it's a construction project. It's a
Right.
big thing.
There you go.
I literally have a scheduling program. It's a construction management program. I literally map out the build schedule. I have to-do lists built into it that keep track of reach out and conversations we've had and the whole 9 yards. So
That's some shit I could never do.
Yeah, well, so it's funny that you've implemented that into car builds because, like you said, most of the car builds are harebrained.
Right.
well, it's hard. It's when you have a large enough build with enough moving pieces, no pun intended. It's a lot. One minute you're researching something and then you can't remember what direction you wanted to go,
Yep.
and then it just becomes very like squirrel,
Right.
shiny kind of mentality. And I'm trying to really step away from that. I have that naturally, just my personality and how I am. So I'm really trying to not. You just, like you said, it ends up kind of a mess.
It does.
So-
And the worst part is when it's a big build, it ends up getting so bad. I know you've seen this that they end up selling the car
Yeah.
before it ever gets done.
Yep.
I see that so often. That's why I'll get people, they're like, you know what, I want to make 2,000. I'm like,
Nope.
let's do 15.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get your foot in the door. Let's get the car running.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I want to go crazy. I'm like,
Well-
but if you get it running, then you can do this and this.
Well, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine in your shoes, handing someone a 1,500 horsepower car, like, I would be a little
We
nervous.
talked about this morning.
Can they handle that? Are they going to, like, you're putting somebody, not you personally, but
Well,
it can be
it's
dangerous.
my liability.
Yeah.
When I tune cars for people, we were talking about this morning on the Monoxide podcast, is like, when I build these cars for these people, it's a lot of younger kids that we're doing it for. And a lot of people want 1,000 horsepower, but like when 1,000 horsepower kind of gets out of control a little bit, they don't have I'm not saying they can't handle it, but most of them haven't been in a situation that they know how to handle that. And you're equipping them with
that.
that.
To get to either.
You're
like
equipping
to
them with
gain
something
that
dangerous.
knowledge and to I mean,
You got to mess up a lot at 700 to be able to handle it at 1,000.
Absolutely,
Or 500.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going a lot faster at 1,000. A
So-
lot faster, more quickly.
Right.
Ashley, can you shout out your different social media?
Yeah,
addresses?
absolutely. So my Instagram handle is the _Ashley_ Vaughn. Sorry, I had a lot of copycat
Yeah, you're
accounts.
good. You're good.
I'm Ashley Vaughn on YouTube. I believe TikTok is the same as my Instagram. Facebook, I'm Ashley Vaughn. There is a business page and a personal profile, so that gets a little confusing, but
Very good. Well, thank you very much for coming by to talk to us today.
thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you all for checking us out here at 5 O'Clock Garage, SEMA 2024.